For a proud mother of a 7-month-old baby who recently started weaning, Blesselac is one of the options for her child's nutrition.
When
I heard about Blesselac, I went and I bought it and I tasted it, and I also liked the smell. I gave it to the baby and she liked it and she eats it with no problem.
Pascaline says she's working to incorporate other highly nutritious grains to make more varieties. She also plans to expand production to rival foreign brands of baby food.
Guinea worm is on course to become the second human disease to be eradicated after smallpox, thanks largely to intervention overseen by former President Jimmy Carter. Previously unpublished research from the 1970s, just released, shows the burden the disease has had on millions, and Ridgewell has more from London.
Guinea worm is contracted when people drink water contaminated with tiny crustaceans that contain the worm larvae. A year later, a metre-long female worm emerges through a painful blister, often disabling the infected person for months. British scientist Brian Greenwood first came across Guinea worm in the 1970s when working in northern Nigeria. He says little was known about the disease, despite millions suffering from it across Africa and India.
People are much more concerned with malaria and other bilharzia and other tropical infections. And part of the reason was that these people were so disabled they never got to the clinic or the hospital, so that if you looked in hospital records, you didn't see this as a big problem.
Greenwood spent 4 years studying the disease and trying to find out why sufferers often got repeat infections without developing immunity.
Often they got a secondary bacterial infection and if they needed it, had antibiotics. Then we extracted some of the worms and the traditional way is winding them out on a matchstick just gradually, and the problem is if the worm then snapped inside, then they got a very severe reaction.
Greenwood credits the Carter Center, a charitable foundation set up by former US President Jimmy Carter for helping to fight the disease to the brink of eradication. There is no vaccine or treatment. Instead, community education programs teach people to filter drinking water and avoid entering water sources. Speaking in 2011, President Carter described the initial difficulties.
So it was kind of an insult to say this disease comes out of your pond. So we've had to do a lot of diplomacy and convicting the people there to take care of their own problems. Well, it's worked. And now almost every nation on earth has eradicated or eliminated guinea worm.
When the Carter Center first got involved in 1986, there were around 3.5 million cases in 21 countries. By 2016, just 25 cases were recorded in only 3 countries: Chad, Ethiopia and South Sudan. Professor Greenwood's early study of guinea worm lay unpublished for 40 years as he was directed to focus on malaria and meningitis instead. But last year in London, he met Jimmy Carter, who persuaded him to publish.
I hope that we have been able to document what a horrible disease this was. I mean, it really was very, very serious, and it's really important that people realise that. And if we do get eradication in the next year or two, which I hope will be the case, that this really is seen not just to be a minor thing, but to be a really very important public health triumph.
The last few cases of guinea worm remain because they are the most difficult to reach. Many are in conflict areas like South Sudan. But scientists are optimistic this ancient disease can be eradicated within the next few years. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.